Hey everyone, welcome to Hope in the Biofield. Today our guest is Shamini Jain. Before we go through the brief introduction and description of what we'll be doing today, I just want to say, for me, this is a very difficult time to maintain my hope horizon. So we talked about how a hope horizon is, what the sort of point in time that you're imagining things will improve and bringing that forward into yourself with a long body. Right now, I'm noticing, just because of world events and the way things are going, I'm noticing that my hope horizon keeps getting further and further in the future at a time when I wish it were closer, when I wish it felt like it were closer. So, and it's harder and harder to have hope when that hope horizon seems farther off. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there and say that that's been my experience, and I'm sure it's been the experience of many people on this list or on this conversation for a while. So, and yet there is hope. So this is brought to us by TILT, the Institute for Love and Time. You can find out more about hope interventions at loveandtime.org/hope-intervention. And again, thanks to the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation for their support in this project and the larger Time Travel Narratives project. So today, as I mentioned, we'll be having our wonderful guest, Dr. Shamini Jain. First, we'll start with a meditation, connecting your biofield to your long body and time for about 7 minutes. Then we'll have Dr. Shamini Jain talk about the biofield and the long body and time and hope. Have some Q&A, have a chime at 29 minutes, and then we'll do our final wrap up. So that's the plan for today. And I think we'll go straight to Michael.
Okay, good morning, everybody. We're going to do a nice, inviting 7-minute meditation, connecting to our long body and hopefully the biofield. I think it's already there, so we'll just connect to what's there. So I'm going to invite you to get comfortable in your seat, on the cushion, with each other, this wonderful group that's been meeting. So as a group, let's take a deep breath in and sigh. Take another deep breath and sigh. So rest your mind in the body as the body rests on the chair, the cushion, the couch. Ease your mind into the body as if getting into a warm tub or under the covers at night. Feel the vibrant body around your awareness. Sensations. There's pulsing, tingling, coolness and warmth, tightness and tenderness. So rest in the body and feel its vibrancy around you. And bring your attention to where the skin and air meet. And see if there's a notable difference between skin and air. And then bring your attention to the air pocket around the body. Feel the density of the air around the body. Extend your awareness into the room around you, extending your awareness from inside the body, through the skin, in the air, into the room. Notice the sounds, color, and light. Sense what exists in the room. Allow the room to be your body. And bring your attention now up into the seat of the brain, behind the eyes, and gaze out toward the eyes, into that infinite space of imagination. And seated in the now, here, look backward to this morning, imagining yourself getting ready for this. And extend your vision backward in time, through days, months. Just seeing moments in time, seeing yourself back through the years. Allow any images of the past to appear in the mind through young adulthood, adolescence, and childhood. Invite in a sense of love for all that you experienced, sending love behind you. And return to the now, here in the body that's expanded. And turn your mental attention toward the future, where you may be in an hour or the rest of the afternoon. Days and weeks from now. Months and years. Any images that arise, just greet with love. And now reside in the now, here, stepping into full awareness of the whole body, the long body, from birth all the way toward death, holding your whole life in your awareness. And just rest in the radiant love of your presence. And take a deep breath. Exhaling a gentle smile on the face. And without losing this radiant presence, this embodied mindfulness, gently open the eyes. And we can bring our attention to our dear friend and colleague, Dr. Shamini Jain.
Oh, thank you, Michael. That was beautiful. And Shamini, Dr. Jane, thanks for being here. Doctor, just by way of brief introduction, Dr. Shamini Jain is one of my favorite people in the world. So there's that. But there's also, professionally, she created this organization called the Consciousness Healing Initiative. And among other organizations she's involved with, that organization, she'll tell you about it, but that organization brought together a powerful group of people who are all focused on aspects of the biofield and consciousness and healing. And Dr. Jane is one of the most approachable, accessible, and yet brilliant. So there's a rare combination of traits: brilliant researcher of the biofield, and yet a great bringer together of people, and a great healer in her own right. So, without further discussion of trying to explain who she is, Shamini, we'd love to have you give us your take on biofield and hope. And I'm trying to unmute you. There you are.
Thank you. Thank you. Julia, thank you. Those are very, very kind words, and I felt them deeply, and very grateful to be here and grateful to be invited. Michael, thank you also for co-facilitating this and having such a beautiful meditation to start us off in that felt sense of the biofield. So, what is the biofield? It's a term that we Western scientists are now using for really what is a very ancient concept, an ancient understanding, really. It's beyond a concept that's existed in spiritual traditions and in indigenous medicine approaches for millennia. So we find understandings of the biofield written, for example, in the early writings of the Upanishads several thousand years ago. We find the descriptions of aspects of the biofield in Chinese medicine, Tibetan medicine, Ayurveda, African medicine, so many indigenous forms of healing. And I want to get into kind of those ancient perspectives, and I'll relate to you particularly some perspectives on the subtle bodies and the biofield really as more of a framework. I think that's really the best way to put it. And Julia, I still remember when we were having a discussion about this. Has never left my mind, and we talk about it often. And as you know, our colleagues at the Consciousness and Healing Initiative absolutely love you, because Julia said, look, you guys, what isn't a biofield? Okay, when you guys talk about the biofield, it's almost like the totality of everything. And well, yeah, it kind of is. I mean, I have to tell you, as a scientist, I think that we're still trying to figure it out, because the truth is, you can talk about the biofield of a cell, or you can talk about the biofield of a person, you can talk about the biofield of a group, and you can talk about the biofield of the earth. So we describe the biofield as sets of interacting and interpenetrating fields of energy and information. And then we add to guide our health, because we are the Consciousness and Healing Initiative. We are sort of oriented towards how do we work with these and recognize these fields of energy and information in a way that guides our health and our evolution. So having said that, I want to share with you a little bit about what our nonprofit Consciousness and Healing Initiative has been doing, because I think you'll be very interested in some of the resources that we've just put together. We just completed about a year-long deep dive, and we have, I think, on the line with us, Cassandra Veaton, who is a board member of the Consciousness and Healing Initiative, who really played a pivotal role in helping shape this. We basically explored, scientifically and health-wise, how do we foster the understanding of biofield science and healing for systems change? Because we know that we're living in a paradigm of a false paradigm of a disconnected world. And if there's anything that the long body is teaching us and the biofield is teaching us, it's just that is an erroneous way of thinking. It's simply not true. So when we take these ancient understandings, both on a conceptual, practical, and academic level in terms of what the data is telling us, and on an experiential level, our world is very different. So this 1 year deep dive was really about, okay, how do we take the bits and pieces? Because just like any emerging field of science, I come from the field of psychoneuroimmunology, which didn't exist 50 years ago, because if you told people that your emotions affected your health, they thought you were crazy. So, just for context, and now we of course we know that. And of course we know the brain and the immune system are connected, but we didn't always. So it's kind of the same thing with the biofield. And we've been exploring, how do we really bring this forth to humanity in a way that we can have healers in clinics, in a way that everyone can feel and sense their biofield and detect disease before it starts. So we culminated this into a really wonderful report for anyone to access. And this is someone who may be familiar with it, but also people who really who don't know anything about this field of energy and information, healing, Reiki, therapeutic touch, healing touch. I mean, that's sort of the focus of the report. We have interactive infographics that show, the hundreds of studies. We have almost 400 clinical studies that have been done with healers, that we just sort of show the data so anyone can access the paper. We have an infographic on a systematic review that actually shows exactly how we put that data together and made conclusions. We have an 81-page report that basically tells you everything you might want to know about the field, including the domains of what's going on in policy, education, communications, research, technology. How do we bring all of these aspects together to really forward an understanding of the biofield and, honestly, the long body? So that's all available to you. And all you have to do is go to reportonhealing.com. We created that URL so it's easy to remember. So it's just reportonhealing.com, and you'll get access to all of this information, including our systems map. So I wanted to let you know about those resources, and I'm happy to answer questions you might have about research and things like that. But in the remaining few minutes that I have, I wanted to talk about this relationship of the biofield with the long body and how it's been described in Vedic, Tantric, Jain, and other traditions. There are many different ways. I think it would be helpful to explore it in terms of the descriptions of the subtle bodies. And there are many. So the one that we have been focused on in biofield science is the one that might be called from the tantric perspective, or the Jain, I'll just say the Jain perspective actually, the sukshma sharir. The sukshma sharir is literally basically described as the subtle body. And it's actually the sort of putting together of two subtle bodies. One is called Tejas Sharir, which is the fiery body, which is what most people would associate with the idea of the etheric body and the biofield. But the other is the Karma Sharir. So most of you have probably heard of the term karma. It's really about cause and effect. Now in the Jain tradition, and I come from the East Indian Jain tradition, karma is believed to be a real thing. It's not necessarily just a mental construct. In fact, Jains are very particular and very scientific about how they describe each type of karma, how you accrue the karma, and how to release yourself from it. Why is this important and relevant to the long body? When the karmic body is intertwined with the subtle body, what happens is we know that we are pure unbounded consciousness. That's our true nature. We are pure unbounded consciousness. We are beyond space and time. And everything we do, everything we say, and everything we think affects how deeply we can connect with that unbounded consciousness and in what ways. So you can think of the karma sharir almost like this layer, this cloud that filters the light of consciousness from your soul, or however you describe it, right? And so from that, everything that is sort of happening and what we're thinking is just very dynamically influencing the light consciousness that exists within us. That then in turn also affects our thoughts, behaviors, and emotions, all of that. But in the Jain tradition, I mean, it actually affects your physical body. Everything is shaped by the interaction of karma with your consciousness. So in that way, we understand that because the biofield is vast, of course, our thoughts and actions and emotions affect ourselves, but also each other. And so we have collective karma and we have this collective biofield. And we see that, Julia kind of spoke a little bit this morning about hope. And it's a very interesting time because, I think that clearly we are being given an opportunity to really look at the karmic traces that exist and explore how we clear them, right? To step into that larger body, that larger field of light and consciousness that we really truly are. But it takes work and it's painful sometimes. So there's that. Just another quick note on the long body and the temporal body and the subtle bodies. There are also a couple of other subtle bodies that are described in these ancient traditions. the Vekriya body, there's another body, and these are bodies that are beyond, I wouldn't say beyond, but they're a little different from the subtle Sukshma Sharir body, in that these are bodies, for example, the translocation bodies, where a very adept practitioner, and they describe it as literally leaving the head, it is a very dense and subtle body that allows you to leave your physical body and go to other galaxies. They actually describe it as going to other galaxies. Very, very well laid out, right? And when you talk to healers, and one of the many things we discovered is healers have many different traditions, many different approaches, but they all kind of say the same thing, which is, I'm not doing the healing, I'm facilitating the healing in someone else. And pretty much, I think everyone I've talked to says, time and space don't matter. It's not a time and space phenomena. So we understand that on some level in this biofield healing practice across the world, across traditions, across time, we're working with the physical and the non-physical, we're working in time and space, and we're working outside of time and space. All are happening at the same time. So I think I'll stop there and we'll have time for questions and discussion.
There are a few questions already, Shamini, in the chat window, if you can see that.
Great. Okay, I read that we access the ether with our DNA and tap into it with our emotions, thoughts, intentions, and desires. How does the DNA affect it, or does it, in your opinion? This is a very interesting question, because we have had many healers say, I'm working all the way at the DNA level. And, you know, let's be honest, okay? Most of mainstream America, when they meet a healer, they're not really bought in. And when a healer says, I'm working all the way to your DNA, they're like, what? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
like, how can that possibly be possible? You're deluded. I think that we can explain this potentially through psychoneuroimmunological mechanisms, potentially, right? So what does that mean? We already know from some of the data with things like thought field therapy and energy psychology therapies, which we consider biofield therapies, that you can alter your epigenetic signaling through these and other types of what are called in the West mind-body practices, right? So I suspect that when a healer says, I'm working on the DNA, on that just very gross reductionist type of level, what is happening is that the body mind is being receptive to a healing response that is altering the way the DNA is expressed through epigenetic signaling. So have we done all of the studies we need to do in this area? We haven't. I would love to do them. We have been talking about this for decades, doing these kinds of studies. So that's, you know, one explanation. And then there's the non-reductionist explanation that says, you know, this is probably light somehow coming through the body in ways that we don't understand, that are also altering the physiology directly, not necessarily just through the brain immune circuit, but there may be literally a direct connection. And again, that's supported by a lot of philosophical and spiritual experience discussions by many spiritual leaders. For example, Sri Aurobindo and the Mother in Pondicherry, India. I don't know how many of you are familiar with them. You know, the Mother and Sri Aurobindo were very prolific writers, and the Mother talked about the consciousness in each cell. So if we're accessing a greater consciousness, and consciousness is connecting with every bit of us, including each cell, then there's a direct opportunity for transformation. So those are my musings about the question. Question, is there empirical evidence, this is from Julia, to support the link between biofield and the long body and time? In other words, how the future shapes the biofield now. I am not aware of any of that, except for that really neat, it's not really a biofield study, but of course you're aware of that study done by, I'm forgetting her name, Julia, you probably know who she is. The wonderful study where she had people, elders, sort of project actually backwards in time.
Oh, Ellen Langer. Yeah, the Langer study. Yeah.
So that's a sort of a neat study to sort of explore, you know, that idea without necessarily invoking the biofield, but, you know, consciousness.
So redoing that study, how would you check to see if the biofield is involved if someone redid that study?
That's a great question. You know, I don't know. I mean, I think the first step would really be to tap into qualitative experience, to self-reported experience, because we're still so limited in our ability to measure what I would call reverberations of the more subtle aspects of the biofield. We may never be able to measure all of these aspects of the biofield that are noticed in felt experience. Humans are still the best sensors for the biofield or biological organisms, right?
So you get people who are really attuned, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that you would explore just from their qualitative. We're doing actually a study with a healer now where we're doing it's really a quantitative analysis of language, to better determine what the themes are that come out from people's experiences of receiving healing. So I think something like that would be useful, because often people do talk about, I have had my ancestors visit me. I went back to a different place in time and I feel like something was changed, so I think that would be the first step, is really tapping into people's experiences directly. That's what I would do.
Thanks.
Sure. So we have one more question from Galaxy Hoppers to everyone. What you're talking about sounds a little bit like Ken Wilber's evolution of form, from the karma of spirit versus involution of form, learning from the patterns of form. Spirit learns, either tightens or lessens karma, sanskara, and form behaves according to the patterns of spirit. So I'm not familiar with Ken's kind of, regrouping of some of these ancient concepts. I know that he does kind of put these things into his own language. But absolutely, and thank you for bringing up sanskaras, because that is essentially what we're talking about. So in the ancient traditions, we do describe this as, these are traces. These are karmic traces that we can access. And often the healers will talk about how they feel them, even outside of the body, right? So we work, for example, with a sound healer who has a whole biofield anatomy map she describes, and she claims that she can hear and sense the perturbations. Literally, I think she's picking up on sanskaras that exist in the field, and then she clears them. So what does that, pattern look like? Certainly you have something that's dense and kind of in form that's in the field, and then when you access it, it may dissolve, right? It becomes into something else, and you become more free, because now you're able to bring that energy back into your body, into your field, whereas before it was sort of an eddy. It was, kind of blocking the flow. So.
That reminds me so much, that description of when you access it and then it kind of dissolves reminds me of the description of long body and time, where you're accessing a future moment where things are better for you and you're bringing it into now. And that separation between now and that future moment dissolves.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yes. Yes, very much.
We have one more minute if you want to take that last question, if you feel you have time.
Bet, sure. Thank you, Cassie, for this question. What is the best way to work with our own subtle energy of biofields, especially when confused or in difficulty to heal ourselves and shape our futures? Beautiful question. It's really related to the practice that Mike just did. Subtle awareness begins with being aware of our physical body. We don't get to bypass what's going on here. The body, the physical body, is a sensor, a temple. So when we allow ourselves to ground, and, we have a Consciousness and Healing Initiative Facebook page, actually, and have some videos there with helpful tools, and I have some too on my website. Doing any mind, body, spirit practice, whether it's Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation, yoga, something that really connects us back in with the subtle awareness of the biofield with our body, helps us discern those moment-to-moment subtle biofield changes that are occurring with every thought, word, and deed. And when we have that, it's tremendous power, because it's like a light bulb, right? That just sort of goes on. And it's like, oh, when this happened, this is what I noticed, kinesthetically, subtly in my body, around my body. And when I do this, I feel more free. When I feel a tightness in my chest, I can just sit and hold it and allow that to sort of release and unravel in itself, and not be afraid of the emotion that's coming, right? So then I can free my energy even more. So subtle awareness, and I'd say anchoring in the body, is one of the most profound and simple basic practices, and there are many ways to contact that.
Thanks, Shamini. That is very felt, wonderful exploration of, I think, what we've been feeling as we do this work week to week, spreading our awareness throughout time and space, and feeling the direct healing in the body of doing this work, because it is a felt sense of healing that happens even in difficult moments when hope is hard to have. We can actually feel lightness and love directly in this body. So that's why I always come to the body, because that's where we can experience it. So thank you.
Thank you. And
I always wish we had so much time. Oh.
I know we didn't have time for me to lead a practice, but if people are interested, I can send y'all a link to a meditation that I have, which is called the Heart's Guidance, where it's a guided, very simple, about 6-minute meditation that will really help to bring you in and strengthen the heart, lungs, and connection to guidance.
So we're going to finish up. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and put that link in the follow-up email, and any other links that Dr. Jane wants to share with us will be in the follow-up email. I'm sorry, we're pretty strict about time on this. I wish we could go on forever. I'm not going to do I will send the homework and the summary statement in the follow-up email so that we don't go over. But thank you, Dr. Jane. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.
Everyone, see you next week.
Okay, bye.
Okay.